Good afternoon, John Cassidy. I'm Area Training Manager for Waterford and Wexford Education and Training Board. And what I was asked to present on was enhancing NZEB skills through simulation. And I suppose for those who may not be familiar with NZEB, it's nearly zero energy building. And it's been quite a topic, certainly since 2017. 2017 saw us to develop the national skills specifications and the national training programs for NZEB. And obviously the larger part, you've got NZEB in terms of new builds, but our particular focus went into retrofit, which is really the most common topic that's out there at present. I'm stepping you back in terms of the reality of how you originally train people. And one of the things we know from apprentices is that the best way to train an apprentice is integrated learning. You have to integrate the practical and theory, because that is how they learn best. Experiential learning is actually a critical part of what they do. But in terms of how do you actually then train people in NZEB skills, on the right-hand side, you can see photographs where you can actually teach them how to apply membranes on roofs, walls, ceilings. But then on the left-hand side, you get into the various stone structures, building structures. So you've got a cavity wall, you've got what is known as a Dublin stone wall, and then you have a traditional block build on the left-hand side. Very difficult to replicate these particular products. We've got them in the training centre, but that means then everybody who needs to be trained needs to come to the training centre, and that became a challenge. So we looked at what were the options. And obviously virtual reality became a real opportunity for us. But obviously what we had to do was, first of all, to partner with a company, and Imagine actually, again, who are Waterford based, came to the fore. And obviously the first thing they had to do was they had to become experts in the skills and in the knowledge in terms of what we wanted to develop. And as a result of that, we then proceeded to develop a series of modules. So we've got window installation. And the quite amazing thing is now that historically, if you install the window, you had 4 metal straps, you put a nail or a screw into the wall and you walked away, right? That world has now changed because you've got cold bridging and you've all the challenges that go with a window installation. And again, the challenge is if you're going to train people in this skill set, your problem is that, one, it's time consuming, and two, you need a lot of resources in terms of actually doing it, and then you have to strip everything down and start again. So obviously virtual reality became the tool, and particularly with window installation, it was the first module that was actually developed. And I actually became the guinea pig in 2018, actually, was when we actually brought the first iteration on. And the fun thing was I'd never gamed, so I was handed the chucks and the headset and went, what do I do now? And that was the challenge. So out of that, what we actually Imagine developed then was a tutorial in terms of actually using the technology. So again, very simple, but it taking people through the process of actually using it. So we went from there, from window installation to insulation, roof and attic insulation, and a wall viewer for exploded views. So if you go back to the first photograph you saw in terms of the walls that had been retrofitted, you can show somebody a picture, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But by actually having an exploded view in terms of the walls, you can physically, with the technology, expand the walls, extrude them, and see all the elements that you've actually added to the original wall. So again, it's an experiential process. And then the fourth module that was developed was across ventilation. And again, that's about the installation of ventilation and the balancing of systems within retrofit facilities. I suppose the big thing we've learned from this is that by taking apprentices, and we train about 500 construction apprentices a year, by taking them through and getting them to use the technology, they're very rapidly learning and understanding the process. And that's really the key. Because again, if you go back to your window installation, if all of the elements are not carried out, that window will not be sealed. That's the problem. So It's about a 10-stage process that they go through. And again, it's a real feel for doing that. Not only apprentices, because the audience is quite broad. We've trained people who are mortgage advisors. We've trained council officials and workers who are doing reviews of tenders. We've done the likes of builders, providers, staff, again, to develop their understanding of the materials and the techniques. They know what the materials are, but they don't know how the materials are used. So the challenge for them is to get an understanding, and likewise a mortgage official who's now evaluating a green mortgage. What's a green mortgage and how do you qualify? And how do you know if somebody's sitting in front of you doing a retrofit to a house, does it qualify? And it's a great tool for actually just bringing people through the process. Challenge from that is we participate in the World Skills event. Some of you might know of it, some may not. RDS, September every year, World Skills event is a national skills competitions. But on top of that, we actually bring our NZEB virtual reality team in. And again, you can see the audience. The interesting thing is that from an audience point of view, RDS were almost 30,000 people there this year, all students, majority students. 49% of the students were female, quite significant. A rise since 2019, it was about 31, 32% in 2019, so a significant rise. One of the things we found, and it's actually quite an interesting fact, is that, and you can see a whole, virtually half a class of girls in there, 13, 14. The amazing thing is from our trainers is that females adapt to this technology and to the learning in terms of the installation much faster. I know, speaking to the converted, I know. But the interesting thing is that the reason for it is that they follow the instructions. What do? You know, you get your manual. The first thing is put the manual to one side, ignore the manual. We'll see how we get on. And if we get into trouble, then we go back and have a look at the manual and check and see how it should be done. But again, it's a simple fact. But it's, and you know, I had first-hand experience of a girl who was probably 18, 19 and went through those 4 modules in 45 minutes. I was absolutely blown away. But it was logical in terms of how she actually went through the process. And we've also seen people. Again, we had the lecturer over from Westminster College, and she went through the process. And what she found was that when she finished it, she said, I'm actually getting Windows installed at home now. Now I know what to watch for. So, you know, therein lies the lesson from it. So I suppose it's spanning generations. That's the beauty of virtual reality. When you think of it in terms of the world of construction, you know, again, apprentices want to touch, they want to feel, but they're quite comfortable to actually get in and touch and feel using the technology. Where you have a stand outside, we'd love you to come and experience it. It's probably the best way to actually get a feel for it. So we look forward to seeing you outside. Thank you.